Chicago, 2011. A cop is murdered. Police and prosecutors swear they have the trigger man. He swears he didn't do it. How far will each side go to prove they're right?
Like it's just one bombshell after another, where you're like, what?
The story of a PlayStation, a brain-eating amoeba, and the relentless pursuit of justice. Off Duty, out now. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love, with no artificial sweeteners, only 30 calories, just 5 grams of sugar, and 3 grams of prebiotic fiber. That great Pepsi taste with even more to love. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
Let's be completely honest. Are you happy with your job? The fact is, a huge number of people can't say yes to that. Too many of us are stuck in a job we've outgrown or one we never really wanted in the first place. But we stick it out and we give reasons like, what if the next move is worse? And I've put years into this place. And maybe the most common one, isn't everyone miserable at work? But there's a difference between reasons for staying and excuses for not leaving. It's time to get unstuck. It's time for strawberry.me. They match you with a certified career coach who helps you get from where you are to where you want to be, either at your existing job or by helping you find a new one. Your coach helps clarify your goals, creates a plan, and keeps you accountable along the way. Go to strawberry.me/career and get 50% off your first coaching session. That's strawberry.me/career.
Hello, and welcome back to the Psych Legal Pop Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk about popular culture through the lens of an attorney and a therapist. I'm Brooke Brigham, I'm the attorney.
And I'm Tess Brigham, I'm the therapist.
And today we are going to talk about a documentary that we both just watched, although it's been out for a while.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah, it's been out for a while because I remember hearing about it. And I might have even watched it a while ago because it looked familiar. But anyway, it's called State of Alabama versus Brittany Smith. And it's about a woman, a young single mother living in Alabama and...
In Stevenson, Alabama. Jackson County.
Small town. And... She said the documentary starts out, we see Brittany kind of out in the woods, and she says she likes looking for rocks and fossils and crystals, and she believes in crystals and healing powers and chakras. So, it starts out very nice, and then it quickly gets dark. So basically, I'm sorry, I don't have what year this happened or anything. I don't even know if did you write down what year this happened?
I'm sure I did when I got there in 2018.
Okay.
This happened on January 15th, 2018.
Okay. So that's the date of the murder.
That was the date of the murder.
Okay.
Or stand your ground murder.
Stand your ground day.
Yeah.
So she was arrested for murder because there was a man in her home who... Well, I guess we'll talk about how he got there. This is just, long story short, a man was in her home. She did invite him into her home, but then he wouldn't leave. Mm-hmm. He ended up sexually assaulting her.
Well, he attacked her, assaulted her, choked her.
Mm-hmm. And then also threatened her brother.
Yes, and almost held her hostage.
Right.
She could, when the attack was over, he wouldn't just leave.
Right.
He basically said to her, if you tell anybody, I'm going to kill you. And he was staying, so she was trying to figure out how to get away from him.
How to escape.
And we can tell you part of that story of how the brother then gets into it. But at the moment of the murder, this guy was choking the brother. So she was like, this guy was going to kill my brother. And he was holding me hostage.
Right. And so she had a gun in her home, and she basically decided to defend herself.
It was her brother's gun.
Okay. So the brother brought it in.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, she used this gun to kill him.
Yes.
And what happened in the legal case that followed was that she tried to use the defense of stand your ground. And that is a self-defense concept that started with the concept that if they called it the castle doctrine. So it meant that, if you're in your own home, in your castle, and somebody is in your home and, they're threatening you, you can basically use deadly force, and you're under no obligation to try to retreat or get away from them or anything. And that's a perfect, it's a clean self-defense claim. And so in Alabama, this is the kind of the gist of the Alabama law, because it's different state by state. Every state has its own. Some states don't have any stand your ground. Some states have very, loose ones. They run the gamut. But in Alabama, the defendant does not have a duty to retreat and has the right to stand their ground so long as they are justified in using deadly physical force and is not engaged in any legal activity and is in a place where they have the right to be. So ostensibly, she fit this description.
Yes. And that whole thing of not doing any illegal activity, that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Like, what if you were smoking weed with this person?
Right.
Or
Doing drugs.
Doing drugs or something. That somehow you shouldn't be able to stand your ground. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
So, and they say right off the bat that women are not treated well in Jackson County, this county in Alabama, and that usually the stand your ground law seems to work very well for men, for white men. So if you're a white man, you can stand your ground. Everybody else, you're going to have to fight to prove that you have the right to stand your ground.
Right. And there's this journalist who appears throughout the documentary named Ashley Remkus, and she's covered a lot of these types of cases. And she says all the cases that she's covered have been white men. And police usually look at those cases and they see it as justified, and they're either not charged or they're, gets dismissed or whatever.
Yeah.
But,
well, Brittany, I mean, things were, we learn a little bit about Brittany's history. And just about how things have been hard for Brittany for a long, long time. Like, Brittany's, hasn't been dealt the best cards, in life. I mean, she was raised by a single mom. We meet her mom, Ramona McCallie, who I loved. And she had 2 kids, Brittany and Chris. And she got divorced when they were 8 and 4. And it was really hard for her to be a single mom. She worked 12 to 16 hours a day. And apparently because they're in this small county where not a lot happens, there's nothing goes on there. And she couldn't get any assistance. So basically, does Alabama must not have the same, because do you remember her saying that? Like, I couldn't get much assistance. So essentially it was like, so in Alabama, there's no food stamps. There's no.
Well, I don't think she meant she got nothing. She said, I didn't get much.
Okay.
It was just not enough to live off of.
Yeah.
And she had to work, 2 jobs.
So, and Brittany is very, very smart, but got married at 19 and was on and off with her husband, had 4 kids, and her child, baby Will, had Potter syndrome, which means he only lived for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And that sent her into a into a spiral.
Yeah.
And
she started getting depressed, and then that led to addiction. She lost her kids, but then she got clean, and she was getting ready to get her kids back.
Yes.
Just literally
5 days
before, on the 10th of January, there was this home evaluation. Someone came from social services. She passed the home evaluation. She wanted to buy a puppy for her kids. Oh, and this is how she met this charming man, Todd Smith. He was a pit bull breeder. And they knew each other from high school.
So just back up. I just want to say, like, this is someone that she thought she knew.
Right.
that someone that she had a relationship that she knew in some way, shape, or
Yeah,
form.
not a total stranger.
Yes, exactly.
So he was going to arrange to, get this puppy for her. And so he texted her and he said he needed a ride. One thing led to another. She let him stay at her house. And he just snapped and he attacked her. And so, that's what, she's trying to hide in her bedroom. And that's when he choked her.
Well, he busted down the door. So she ran to her bedroom and shut the door. And he busted down the door. Sorry. And just like these things are like these little points are so important because it's not like he rushed her and she pulled out a gun and shot him. Like
this took place over a series of several days where she was basically tortured for several days. So when she woke up from passing out from choking, he was raping her. And then he said he wanted to go to the store.
Yeah, well, he told her, he said, if you say one word, I'll kill you. And so she's trying to think about, like, what do I do? What do I do? Okay, I'm going to have him, I don't have any cigarettes here. And I tell him, let's smoke a cigarette. And I don't have any cigarettes here. So I'm going to call my mom and see if she'll pick up cigarettes for me and come over or give me a ride or whatever it is. And so this guy, Todd, has her put it on speakerphone. So she cannot tell her mom what's going on. So she asks her mom, can you come over? And the mom said, well, God, it had been a long day at work. I was exhausted. I think it's like midnight now. It's 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. And she's like, oh, God, I'm so tired. I don't have any money. And Brittany's like, no, I have money. Don't worry about it. And she turned to Brittany's brother, Chris, and said, Chris, can you go? So Chris goes and picks them up.
So, and Todd gets in the car with all of them. And so when she gets to the convenience store, there's a woman working in there. And somehow, I forget the details of this, but somehow Brittany writes a note to the clerk.
Because the clerk seemed to know her, too. It's a small town.
Right.
Yeah.
She writes a note, like a help me note, and gives it to the clerk. And it said, I'm being held hostage. And then Brittany tells Chris to go back into the store and talk to that clerk. Chris goes back to the house. And that's when he brings a gun to the house.
Well, he said, I have my side piece on me all the time. I was like, okay.
Yeah, he brings the gun into the house because he's got it with him. So there's a gun in the house now. Then Todd, flips out again. And that's when he started attacking and choking Chris. And this is when Brittany takes Chris's gun. She fires the gun, at Todd. She then calls 911. And then she tries to save him.
Yeah, she does CPR on him.
Yeah. And, the police come and Chris is thinking, oh, shit, I should take the blame for this. Because he says, I know how women in Jackson County are treated. But, Brittany turns herself in. Well, she says, Well,
hold on. So this doesn't happen right away, though, because he says, because this comes back to bite her in the ass. Because she's like, okay, you take the blame. Because she had just had that home evaluation 5 days earlier and she didn't want to lose her kids again. So she has Chris take the blame. And I think they went, I think that she had the statement and things were happening. And then I think she went back. I think it had been a couple days. She doesn't tell them right away. So he
spent a couple days in jail?
I don't know. That was a little unclear, but I do remember because this is one of the points that comes to bite her is the fact that she wasn't honest in the beginning. But the problem being that anybody else in that position, would feel, I would feel exactly, I don't like to lie, but I would feel exactly how Brittany would feel like, oh my God, I'm going to lose my kids. And, I just am right back. I've finally got my life back together. And because of this Todd, anyway.
She eventually turns herself in. She's charged with murder. She spends 10 months in jail awaiting trial. And then her mother ends up selling her mother's wedding ring and bonds the title to her car to cover $6,000 in bail. Now, this is crazy. First of all, the bail was only $6,000 for murder, but also that this is how poor these people are. It took them that long and having to finagle this and that just to come up with $6,000 so that she can get out of jail.
Yeah.
And Ramona says that, you know, she's proud of Brittany because Brittany fought back and, you know, Ramona's there for, you know, trying to help her do whatever.
But now she can't get a job. You know, she can't get a job and can't see her kids. I thought hands down the best moment was there was this great moment where the mom is in the car and she's driving through the McDonald's lane and she orders something. And then she turns around back to the camera crew and was like, do you want anything? It was just like first time in a documentary I've ever seen anybody ever offer the camera crew. It's like that shows you Ramona's the star.
Ramona's a good woman.
Yeah.
And she actually studied the stand your ground defense. She said she got a law book and she, you know, knows that Brittany had every right to do that. She was in her own home.
And her public defender, Ron Smith, also, and I was a little nervous that she was going to get some incompetent public defender, but this guy seemed to know what he was doing. And he also felt like, yeah, absolutely.
Like it's a slam dunk.
This falls under the category. But the prosecutors, they wanted Brittany to take a 25-year deal.
Oh, yeah. What a great deal.
To admit, yes, I killed him and take 25 years. And she was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to admit to something I didn't do. And then we meet Ron Smith's investigator, Dawn Hendricks, another hero. She just flat out says, you know, she sees racism and sexism constantly. She's like, people in the South don't think there's a problem with sexual abuse and domestic violence. And I was like, yeah.
Well, I think I wouldn't limit that to just the South.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe in certain places it's worse, but I feel like that's everywhere.
That across the board? Yeah.
Women are still, I'm sorry, you know, the rates of domestic violence and sexual assault have not gone down.
Yeah. Well, and they were also saying, which I think is common, not just in Alabama, this whole thing when there's domestic violence, you know, it's almost like the cops throw their hands up and they're like, well, let's arrest both of you. And you're like, do you know what that does to a woman to get arrested for? I mean, they're just, after I watched this, I texted Brooke and I said, I am livid. I was so angry about all of it. But so they got a court date for her. So she was going to have her stand your ground hearing in January of 2020. And so they're putting together their case. And what they photographed Brittany after the attack. She had 33 injuries on her body. And the nurse testified on her behalf. And she had handprints. Around her neck, they could see the handprints.
Yeah, they showed a picture. She had like these huge, like look like bruises, like from being choked and strangled.
But
bite marks.
Yeah. I mean, she was her knees were scraped up. She was a mess. We didn't see any pictures of her brother though. Because, I mean, obviously he was choked out too. But, you know, one of the things that happened was that in the 911 call, the operator asked Brittany, because Brittany's telling him, like, this man came into my home, he assaulted me. And the operator asked her, like, did he rape you? And she said no in that phone call. And, you know, a lot of people were saying, well, why wouldn't she admit it? And I think that what people have to recognize is, listen, many rape victims don't disclose what's happening. And it's so incredibly personal to you. Like, you don't even know this person on the operator. Like, you're just going to share that. But that is, again, something else. She should have said that. She said he didn't rape her. It's like, yeah, because she was in the midst of shock. And I'm sorry, but I don't know. She doesn't know this operator.
Yeah, and she doesn't want to get into that right now. Right now, she's concerned about the fact that she just shot someone. And she probably doesn't want him to die because then that will be murder. And so she's calling for help, you know, and saying, come and help me. But yeah, that's the thing. Like this case, at no point, I mean, I don't know what was presented at the hearing. I would hope that there was some sort of expert at this hearing about domestic violence and abuse and sexual assault, who could testify about her behavior and that it was consistent with people who are victimized in this way. But I don't know. We don't get very much information about what happened at the hearing and what was presented at the hearing.
But we also learned that Todd had a bit of a meth problem. So Jackson County, and Ramona says this, that Jackson County, it wasn't always this way, but it's become, a bit, they have huge problems with addictions. I could bet you, because there's not much to do there and there's not much places to go or feelings of that there's prosperity around the corner. So I think I would be using drugs too. So we learned that Todd, that to get arrested for like a DUI for meth, the legal limit is 200 milligrams. Todd's limit was 840 milligrams, 4 times the legal limit. I mean, so he obviously was in just this meth-filled rage, right? Like,
well, and he's also a very violent person.
Yes.
When I was doing some searching after watching the documentary, Todd had been arrested 71 times. Including many, many domestic violence cases.
Yeah, well, we heard from his wife. The wife went on a podcast, and Todd's ex-wife said that she experienced a lot of domestic violence. I think the final thing was that he duct taped her to a chair and beat and raped her over the course of hours or days.
Oh,
I mean, it's
this
unreal.
I'm sorry, this guy needed to be killed.
Yeah. Well, listen, we meet his cousin. What's this? We meet his cousin, Jeff Poe. Jeff Poe was all for it too.
Right.
Jeff's like, hey, I know he's my cousin, but God, I don't know. Yeah, Todd's got a problem.
I think we're all better off without Todd.
Yeah. So the family, like, they could not get any of his family here at all. The one family member they got was this guy who basically said, yeah. I mean, Brittany did everyone a service by getting Todd off the map.
Yeah. So after the hearing, basically, when this is what really got me, it was a female judge.
Yes.
You think you would have a little bit of hope, but no. She denied the stand your ground immunity. And again, found that she was not only not justified, but like you said, there was all these inconsistencies, the initial report that her brother shot Todd and not disclosing the rape and whatever, all this stuff harmed her credibility.
Well, yeah, one of the questions we hear the prosecutor say, like, cross-examining her, and apparently Brittany did a great job on the stand. I mean, she's very smart. She did a great job on the stand, and then the prosecutor is cross-examining her, and, this whole thing about, why did you call your mom? Why not when he put he gave you a phone and you were calling, why call your mom? Why didn't you admit that you had been raped? And it's like she was just like, that PTSD in that moment, she needed her mother. Like, it's such a visceral thing of like just needing to be with her mom. And this prosecutor has no ability to make, or the judge to make any, I mean, what is wrong with these people? I don't understand.
Well, the prosecutor, he doesn't care. He wants to put her in a negative light. But the judge, you would think, but I don't know, I don't know, being a woman in and of itself doesn't always mean shit, you know?
Well, the judge said that the defendant had many opportunities to seek protection from Todd.
When exactly?
When? Every time that she had a moment to get away from this guy, she tried something. She did something. She called her mother. Then the brother came. She talked to the person, the clerk came out. The brother started to protect her, and he came in because, every single time. So it's almost like this law can only work if the guy is on top of you, raping you. You reach over to your gun that's so handily right there and shoot the person. Even then, I think they wouldn't even let you do the stand your ground.
And here's the thing that was so strange to me. They were so, they didn't, I don't think they really cared about the prison sentence, because she ended up getting a very light sentence. They just wanted the satisfaction of her having a felony conviction for murder
And
for the
why?
rest of her life so that she could, never get a job, never get custody of her kids. They were going to ruin, they figured, we don't need to send her to prison. We'll just ruin her life that way. And they seemed perfectly fine with that. And so she felt like she was backed into a corner and she had to plead guilty. And, she was probably the right thing to do.
I would have done the same thing.
Because she was going to get convicted and she was going to get sentenced to life in prison. So basically, the time that they offered her for this murder plea was less than a manslaughter plea. So
Yes.
they just wanted to ruin her life. That was it.
Yeah, and that part's really important because on her record it's murder, not manslaughter.
Right.
Like they wouldn't even give her the manslaughter thing.
No.
Yeah. So I was a little confused about because we see her at the end of the documentary. We see something that she served 6 months in jail. That she had for time served, 6 months in jail. But I was like, wait a minute, she spent 10 months. If they only gave her 6 months in jail and 18 months of house arrest, she did 10 months. So isn't that time served when she was detained? So why is she still serving time?
Well, okay, so she was given 36 months.
Oh, 36 months.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Got
She
it. Sorry.
yeah.
I thought they said 6 months.
No,
I
and
think my closed captioning was off. So
yeah, so it was 18 months in, let's see. Well, she'd already served a lot of
10,
time.
yeah.
So they gave her 18 months house arrest and then 18 months of a suspended sentence. So she'd be in like lifetime parole or whatever, or probation, because she never actually went to prison. But she violated her probation multiple times. She ended up, I hope these notes are right. I don't know. I went back and looked on Wikipedia. She ended up going back to prison for some stuff.
Well, and that's the part that's so hard, right? Is Brittany, obviously she had a drug problem and she got clean, but stress and
Well, now her life is ruined.
yeah. And so, and you can't get a job.
She no longer has that motivation. She had the motivation to get clean and get her kids back and whatever. What motivation does she have now?
Yeah.
They're going to take her kids forever. Well, I mean, she can see them when they're 18, I guess. But, it's like they've ruined her life. And that's the thing. Once you get into the system,
Yes.
that's another thing. If you're on probation, you have like a 4-way search clause. They can search your car, your house, your person, your vehicle.
Anytime without probable
Anytime
cause.
for no reason at all. And it's just it's a guarantee you're going to end up going back for something. And then your record just keeps like piling up and piling up. And if you already have a prior for murder,
Yeah.
like what chance do you have?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they did. There was this chyron at the end, or maybe they said studies show that the majority of women who kill their abusers end up taking plea deals. And at the end, I think it was the reporter that said this, that there is no justice in this story. There's no justice. Like nobody, it's just nothing. And the Stand Your Ground law study found that women are 2 times as likely to be convicted as a man. Thousands of women are serving time for killing their rapists and abusers right now, sitting in prison. And this story just made me livid.
Well, and
So pissed.
this whole thing about women in the justice system, I sometimes when I'm scrolling the TikTok, I'll get these TikToks about, clips from these shows about women in prison. And I'm always shocked at how the sentences these women have. Like they go to these penitentiaries, these women's penitentiaries. And of course, none of these women are violent.
Yes.
Like they're all just getting along, doing their thing. You know what I mean? They're just trying to do their time.
We see Brittany with a phone call with her mom from prison, and it's Halloween and they're all dressing up. They're having a grand old time, right?
Well, I wouldn't put it that way.
I wouldn't say it's grand old time, but it's just more of like you see that energy is very different.
It's very different than
amongst women,
than
I'm
men.
just saying.
Obviously, they
There's
rather
rough
not-
stuff there.
They would rather not be there, and there is shitty stuff that happens there. But but like they'll interview these women and, how long are you serving? Oh, I'm serving, 15 years or 20 years. Well, what did you do? Well, I wrote some bad checks or, like I sold some drugs to somebody. And it's like, why are these women getting these outrageous sentences for nothing?
Yeah.
These people are not in jail for violent crimes. They're stupid shit.
Well, and the other thing too, this is the other thing, the whole white collar world, right? Where like these guys steal money from, we got Tom Girardi stealing money from orphans and burn victims who will probably never see a day in prison for what he's done, who get these really light sentences for stuff. And what always hits me is every time I watch any kind of show about women in prison, the common theme is there's some man in their life who
did something for
they either hid drugs for him or sold drugs for him or she was being abused on a daily basis and fear for her life and she finally kills him or he's hurting one of their children and so they step in for the kids. I mean, every single issue pertains to some man that roped them into something. And they do have free will. They could have said no. But once, an abuser doesn't walk up to you and say, "Hi, I'm an abuser. You want to date?" It's like, no, they weasel their way in. And then you have a child with them and you cannot get rid of them.
And you're financially dependent on them. Like, especially like all those federal drug cases where it's mandatory minimums. And all these women who, drove their car, took some drugs in their car and delivered them to some place and they're doing 20 years.
Yes.
Just for that. And it's never their idea. They're not the ones who are like,
or maybe it's the abusers that they're so scared of and can't say no to, and they can't tell them, no, I'm not going to drive your drugs from point A to point B.
Yeah, no, there's something really,
and that's not
wrong
seen
with it. It's just an extension of the sexism that,
and the racism
everywhere, racism.
Because it's not like because they didn't give us any stats on this, but I would be interested, like how many Black men, Hispanic men have been able to use the stand your ground law. But you have a very famous case of an Hispanic man. But
George Zimmerman claimed to be Hispanic. But the most famous stand your ground case is the Trayvon Martin case that happened in 2012 in Sanford, Florida. So this guy, George Zimmerman, was crazy. He fancied himself some sort of like neighborhood watch vigilante type. These people who are always looking for
nobody appointed him.
No one asked him to do this. He had no authority to do anything. Who thinks that anyone who he sees that he doesn't know is suspicious looking. So Trayvon Martin, he's a Black teenager, 17 years old. He and his father are staying in this, I don't know if it was like a condo community or some kind of, private community in Florida. They're staying at the home of his father's fiance. And Trayvon Martin famously was at the store buying some Skittles and, a Coke or whatever. And he's walking back to his dad's fiance's house and he's walking through this community.
He's got his hood on.
He's got a hood on.
Oh, no.
And he's Black. And George Zimmerman spots him and decides he's suspicious. Even though he's doing nothing, just walking down the street, minding his own business. And George Zimmerman calls 911 on this teenager who's walking and is saying, I don't know, this guy looks suspicious and looks like he's casing and blah, blah, blah. And then George Zimmerman says, well, I'm going to follow him. And the 911 dispatcher said, no, don't do that. She told him not to do that. And, they dispatched the police. Anyway, Zimmerman decided he was going to go confront this kid. And, Trayvon was, we don't really know what happened. All we know is what ended up happening was Zimmerman is on top of Trayvon, who's on the ground, and he's armed, and he shoots him point blank. And anyway, so he invokes the stand your ground law, self-defense. And the judge instructed the jury that Zimmerman had no duty to retreat, had a right to stand his ground and use deadly force if he reasonably believed it was necessary to defend himself. Now, who thinks that was reasonable? You shouldn't have even been
jurors in Florida.
I guess so. He shouldn't have even been talking to this kid. He called the police. The police told him, "Don't follow him. We'll come. We'll handle it." And without the stand your ground law, the instruction would have been that Zimmerman had a duty to attempt to retreat using every reasonable means before using deadly force. Then Florida expanded their stand your ground laws to extend to not just your home, but your car and public places, which means
is scary.
It was very scary, which means that if you're in Florida and you feel threatened by anyone, anywhere, you can defend yourself with deadly force.
Well, yes, if you're a white man, you will probably get away with it. I mean, so here, let's just to the listening public, please tell us, George Zimmerman, Brittany Smith, 2 cases of wanting to use stand your ground. Who do you think was in more danger?
Right.
And and had an imminent threat to their life?
Right. George Zimmerman was never, ever at any point in time being threatened in any way by Trayvon Martin. Trayvon Martin was minding his own business. George Zimmerman confronted him and escalated it. And the boy's dead because of it.
Yeah. Yes.
It's
awful.
It's not
fair, and it's wrong.
It's not fair. It's not right.
Ugh. But I don't know. I was really hoping that there would be a good outcome for the Brittany Smith. I started it thinking, okay, we're going to rise above and all of that. And it's just, and what's amazing about it is that if you see Brittany and how she was when in prison, like trying to make the best of it, Ramona trying to make the best of it, like, digging deep to try to find some kind of, I don't know, hope somewhere along being just dealt the crappiest hand. And this is the other thing I wanted to say about the whole, about Brittany is the other thing that is that this man now, if she did nothing, this man now knows where she lives. Do you know what I mean? Like, how could she move on from, do you know what I mean? Even if she let the guy go to get away from him, he knows where she lives. He knows she's vulnerable because she lives alone. Her kids are going to come back. How scary is that to think, like, am I ever going to be safe in my own home ever again?
And also, what are the chances of, let's say Brittany was able to get away from him, go to the police department and say, hey, this crazy guy is in my house and he won't leave my house and he's raped me and blah, blah, blah. What do you think they would have done?
Why did you let him in? They would have done jack shit. They probably would have kicked him out that night or probably put him in a tank or something that night. And then they would have just let him out the next day. And now Todd's really pissed. He's got even, he goes get high again. Because this is the other part too, is that meth as a drug is a nasty, nasty drug. And it makes you like hyper, like you get crazy strength from it, and so, and you're not a rational thinker. So now this person who you've taught, you've gotten into trouble, who has a long history of domestic violence, who knows where you live, like really, what other choice did this one? I mean, she truly had no other choice. Yeah. I'm sorry. But even in the moment in time, it would be one thing if they were like, well, it's just you and your brother standing around talking to him. It was like he was choking out your brother. Right. You could not physically get this guy off your brother. So it was like, now you're going to kill my brother?
Well, and also he had demonstrated that he was capable and ready and willing to kill either one or both of them.
Yes.
So anyway, I mean, I'm glad that the story has been told.
Yes.
So people know about it. And,
Well, the other thing is the reporter did mention that people got wind of the story and women did start showing up. And women did protest the courthouse, and we saw some signs and we saw some stuff going on. I don't know if it was that big, but these kinds of cases, I'm glad that Netflix did this documentary. I mean, it was only 45 minutes and it was a short one, and it's not, your typical sort of murder mystery kind of thing, but it's really important. I hope that filmmakers tell more of these cases because we have to shine a light on this. If we don't shine a light on this, then it's just going to keep, festering in the ground. And it's got to end. It's got to stop. All this stand your ground. I mean, really, I don't know. Do we really need all these stand your ground laws all everywhere, like out in the middle of the public?
Well, I certainly, the whole castle doctrine in your home, that's a very old, oldest time concept. And I agree with that. You should be able to defend yourself in your own home. But then people abuse that too.
Yes.
Like there was recently a case where I can't remember if it was a young man or a young woman knocked on the wrong door.
Yes.
To pick up. I think it was a young man who was going to pick up his younger siblings.
Yes.
He knocked on the wrong door. He was a black man in a predominantly white neighborhood. And the man living in the home literally opened the door and just shot him.
Yes, here it is.
Point
I have
blank.
it right here. Ralph Yarl. Am I saying his name right? Ralph. Sorry, Ralph. I will find your Yarl, who was shot. He knocked on the wrong door, and he did make a full recovery, which is great.
Oh, good. I thought he was dead.
And, he was doing really well for a 16-year-old. Like he was doing well, picking up his
even
brothers.
if he was a dirtbag, he didn't deserve to get shot.
So basically the guy who shot him was Andrew Lester, an 84-year-old white Kansas City homeowner accused of shooting the black teenager, pleaded not guilty to first degree. I wonder what happened with this case, but this was April 13th. And was this last year?
It wasn't that long ago.
Oh no, it was this year. It was this year.
Yeah,
it was this year.
It hasn't been resolved yet, the criminal part.
Yeah. So he rang the bell. So basically he just rang the bell. Lester shot him twice through a glass door with a .32 caliber revolver, striking him in the head and the forearm.
Jesus Christ.
Lester told police he lives alone and was scared to death.
Well, then don't open the fucking door.
Scared to death when he saw a black male on the porch and thought someone was trying to break in, according to the probable cause statement. So basically, if you or I rang that doorbell, do you think he would think that we were, you know what I mean?
No,
like, hello.
We were like Jehovah's Witnesses or something, just coming to the door.
Yes.
All right. Well,
I'm all fired up.
Enough.
I know.
It's depressing. All right. Well,
we'll end on that note.
Yeah. Sorry.
End on a high. What can people do? What can people do?
Well, we need criminal justice reform.
Yes.
For many issues, for women, for minorities.
And where does one start with that?
I don't know. Google criminal justice reform. Get involved with an organization, a local organization in your area. I mean, there's a lot of people out there trying to change these things and doing good work.
Yes.
So anyone can find one near them, or you can donate money to these places.
I think I'll find one and donate money. Because this is, I have this with my clients all the time. And there's a lot of stuff going on in our world politically and in the entire world. And it's what's so hard is when you feel so powerless. You see injustice and you feel so powerless. And what I always say is, it's like, you got to focus on what's within your control. So what's in your control is volunteering, giving your time. If you can't give your time, giving your money, or at least even shouting it out and putting it out there and saying that. So
yeah. There's a lot you can do, and it doesn't have to be something huge. Even little things help.
If each of us did a little thing, it would become big things.
It would add up.
Yes. So that's the hope. That's the hope.
Okay. We'll end on that.
Yes.
So thank you for tuning in. If you haven't already, please subscribe to our podcast. And also, if you could give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, that would really help us out. And you can also look us up on social media at Psych Legal Pop on Instagram and TikTok. We also do on Tuesdays, we cover Sister Wives.
Yes.
The current season 18 of Sister Wives that comes out on Tuesday. And we are doing other documentaries.
We'll get back to our rewind
every Thursday. But yeah, there's a lot of good documentaries out there.
Yes, there are. And we've covered a lot too. If you're new here, go back.
Yeah.
We have a long library catalog.
Yes, we have over 100 episodes.
Of
and
shows.
If you go back, it's a little bit Sister Wives heavy, like in the recent past, because we've been covering that show. But if you go past that, go a couple months back, and we have a lot more documentaries. So if you like documentaries, we're going to start doing some more true crime type stuff as well. So thank you for joining us.
Yes, we appreciate
Hope
you.
to see you back soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love with no artificial sweeteners, only 30 calories, just 5 grams of sugar, and 3 grams of prebiotic fiber. That great Pepsi taste with even more to love. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.